centuries. You don't know where you land. It's so dark in mythology. Treasures of history to be found. Hear the legends of time. All the handiworks remain. Only the dream away. Orion,
Hello again. When Peter Davison got the role of the Doctor, he was one of the most popular TV actors in the UK, having made his name playing a vet in All Creatures Great and Small. When his era began, he could also regularly be seen in 2 comedy shows, Holding the Fort and Sink or Swim. The other Doctors were launched into mega recognisability by Doctor Who, but Peter Davison already had it. And it was a good thing. Doctors 1 to 4 had personality in spades, and 5 doesn't. He's both bland and blonde, vanilla made flesh and cast as the Doctor.
That's the trouble with regeneration. You never quite know what you're going to get.
Agreed. He's my least favourite classic Doctor, but I'll try to be fair. Castrovalva is the 3rd part of the Master trilogy and it's 4 parts long. The crew drag the Doctor back to the TARDIS, as he has a troubled regeneration. 5 cycles through his earlier incarnations and spends part of the story semi-conscious and or semi-lucid. And most importantly, the Doctor's boots somehow regenerate into shoes between Logopolis and this story. Eventually they use the Zero Room, and a makeshift Zero cabinet to aid the Doctor's recovery. It's a piece of Time Lord technology that helps with difficult regenerations. They create the makeshift one because the real one gets deleted as part of an effort to escape the Big Bang. About half the story takes place in Castrovalva, a town of simplicity, relaxation and peace. And of course, it's an MC Escher-esque plot concocted by the Master, who's captured Adric. Now, I wasn't entirely fair about Adric last season. The reasons he was so reviled as a companion started mostly with this story. Like Rose, he was tolerable in his first season. And like Rose, his second season utterly poisoned the character's well. The Master is also in disguise as one of the people who live in Castrovalva. Now, when the Delgado Master would be in disguise, they would usually go to minimal effort. Usually it'd be practically see-through, but with Ainley it works. You were not supposed to realise it was him, and often you don't. He plays each disguise differently, and they even use pseudonyms in the end credits to keep up the illusion. Ainley was just a really good actor. Castrovalva itself is a spatially impossible town. Everything written down was in the same handwriting, the streets all reach the same locations. It's unstable and it's shrinking. This is one of the all-time classic Master escapes from certain death and it's never explained how scenes, as the Master is grabbed by the inhabitants of Castrovalva as the final door out of it closes. Soon everything inside will be crushed and destroyed, and they all want to kill him. I only bring this up because they didn't even need to create a reason for the Master's reappearance in the end of time. The character survived things much more fatal than a gunshot wound without explanation. In the Ainley years, it's practically a trademark of the character. I like Castrovalva, maybe more than I should. It's interesting. As debut stories go, it's better than average. Some of the costumes are beautifully silly, and the alien architecture of Castrovalva itself is some of early 80s Doctor Who's better optical effects. Anyway, on to the 4-part 4 to Doomsday. It's another special one. A special one that I'd call a guilty pleasure, but I don't really believe in guilty pleasures. I like it, and most people think it's shit and stupid. They're trying to take Tegan home to Heathrow, but the TARDIS misses the Earth by 4 light days. So they're somewhere far beyond Pluto, and land in a ship owned by Monarch, a large green alien. He is a ship full of humans taken from various points in history and from different cultures. Well, I say they're humans. They're androids with the appearance and memories of the original humans. And he's planning on getting to Earth and wiping out the human race and taking over the dead planet. He also wants to go back in time and see the Big Bang because he's fairly sure he's God and wants to confirm that he made it happen. In this story, Adric betrays the rest of the TARDIS crew. The Doctor ignores physics and biology in a sequence when he goes into space without a spacesuit. We discover that Tegan can speak a 40,000-year-old Aboriginal dialect because she's Australian. And Nyssa doesn't do very much at all because they had too many companions for the script. Like I said, I mostly like 4 to Doomsday because it's really, really stupidly silly. But you probably won't. Next is Kinda, one of the most popular early Peter Davison stories. And I'm going to have to be very vague about it because without a lot of time to properly explain things, I just can't do it justice. So just trust me, it's good. Nyssa is missing from episodes 2 and 3. This is the first story since the Troughton era where a main character flat out missed random episodes. It's the planet Devaloka. There is a race of psychics called the Kinda, a human expedition is checking the planet for possible colonization, and Tegan has fallen asleep, only to be trapped in a dream and contacted by the Mara, an evil non-corporeal snake monster that aims to possess her. It gets worse when one of the humans in the expedition goes completely insane and plans to blow their dome up. This is good, unique and interesting. Even the terrible snake special effects can't take that away from it. From there we go to the Visitation, the weakest story of the season thus far, and the first historical. The TARDIS lands on the right spot for Heathrow and returning Tegan to a regular life, but they're about 315 years early, 1666. It's the eve of the Great Fire of London. The Great Plague is scouring the land and the Grim Reaper himself has been seen. Well, he's actually a robot, working for some pteroleptal criminals. The pteroleptals plan on genetically augmenting the Black Death to devastate the Earth's population and taking the planet for themselves. Because what else would their motivation be? The show used up all this story's allotted originality in Kinda. The TARDIS crew team up with a hammy theatrical actor turned highwayman who is easily the most entertaining part of the story. There are 2 noteworthy things about this adventure. 1. This is the first script by Eric Sayward. He's the new script editor, and he essentially built a career in Doctor Who on trying to be Robert Holmes. And 2. This is the last appearance of the Sonic Screwdriver until the Paul McGann TV movie.
I feel as though you've just killed an old friend.
Its destruction is a minor part of the story, but the order came directly from producer JNT. He felt the Sonic was too much like a magic wand that the writers were leaning on, and was cheapening the stories. And if he saw how the Sonic is handled in the news show, he'd probably gnaw his way through his TV set. And I agree with his concerns. It was used as a crutch. I'm just confused with the timing of its removal. If anything, he should have written it out before the Leisure Hive. It's Tom Baker's Doctor who really began the magical Sonic Screwdriver thing. But even Tom Baker didn't overuse it like the news show does. I really wish someone would have the guts to remove it from the news show. Anyway, this is uninspired, mundane, and fairly short. If you love the Sonic, then watch and cry. The next story, Black Orchid, is notable for 2.5 reasons. 1. It's the final pure historical. To remind you, a pure historical is a historical with no sci-fi elements beyond the TARDIS, the main cast, and anything they bring. There hadn't been one since the Highlanders in Season 4. And I personally would love to see some more. 2. It's a 2-part story made up of 25-minute episodes. There were 3 of these in the entire 26 seasons of Classic Who. And the half point is because they run into an identical double of Nyssa. It's a half point because exact companion doubles aren't quite as interesting as exact Doctor doubles. It's the 1920s and the TARDIS crew are invited to a fancy dress party at a manor house. Something is murdering people, and what's it got to do with a mysterious Black Orchid? This is a mostly pointless story. It exists so people can see Tegan dance the Charleston, and so some random Edwardian tropes can be used in Doctor Who. What's committing the murders? The owner of the manor's son, who went insane searching for the Black Orchid and is now trapped in a disused part of the mansion. Obviously. And now you know you don't need to watch it. Another thing I like about Classic Who over New Who is the DVD commentaries. In New Who, it's as though they're all reading from matching talking points about how everyone is wonderful, genius and brilliant. How every episode is some sort of a triumph. But not Classic Who, oh no. People are allowed to say what they want, and Black Orchid's commentary is wonderfully abusive to the story.
Okay. Now this is where I think it starts to fall apart.
What, now already?
There are fans who
now it's all
like
downhill.
this 2-part story. There are fans who like this 2-part
I mean,
story.
I
No,
don't...
I'm sorry. I
Did you shave your chest?
Now on to the penultimate story of Season 19, the Must-See story. Now Must-See doesn't equal the best, it means the most important story of the season. But in this case, this is probably the best story of the season. JNT loved publicity for the show, any way he could get it. It was one of his biggest strengths. but even he knew that sometimes you have to shock the audience. Earthshock had 2 massive, earth-shattering shocks. The sorts of things the new show can't do because of the internet. The closest it's ever come to this is Rose appearing in Partners in Crime, or Jenna Louise Coleman in Asylum of the Daleks, and they are small fry compared to Earthshock. First up, it brought back the Cybermen for the first time since Season 12. The Cybermen's first appearance is right at the end of Episode 1.
Destroy them! Destroy them at once!
The second massive shock was killing Adric. They decided that 3 was too many companions, so Adric had to go. And he went out in style, trapped on an exploding spaceship, which might or might not have wiped out the dinosaurs. No companions had died since Season 3's Dalek master plan 16 seasons earlier. The Cybermen would keep this basic design with little changes here and there until the end of the classic show. It's a fine design, not my favourite but better than most. The directing on this story is top-notch, some of the best ever seen in the classic show. It's stagey, theatrical old classic Doctor Who directed like an action film. And that's really hard to do with multi-camera filming setups. The story's not perfect by any means. Many of the Cybermen weren't told in cyber school that emotions are for the weak. Some of the casting is just baffling, especially the hard-bitten space captain played by Beryl Reid.
Stay where you are.
Ringway!
Yes, Captain?
The enemy's outside, mister. You're pointing your gun in the wrong direction.
I'm relieving you of command.
And the worst is the end credits. They're played over Adric's destroyed badge. No audio, only silence. It should have been like this.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together.
But even if this was terrible, the story would have justified its existence by inspiring this sketch from the real McCoy. I present the Jamaican Cyberman sketch. You can thank me later.
Coming up tonight, we have some classic programs for you from the BBC, which have been specially dubbed for we. Starting at 7:30 with Doctor Who having some trouble with some Cyberman.
Hey, what am I saying now? Listen, Mr. Cyberman. Yeah, call me up, I'll give me some money to wear the show. You never said that. You just said that seasonally. But you don't look like no Dalek to me.
After that high, we have the last story of the season, and like Season 21, Season 19 ends with a steaming pile of shit after its brilliant penultimate story. The Master, who escaped Castrovalva, is on Primordial Earth, where he has disguised himself as what I think is a racist caricature, but I'm not sure what of. He's stealing Concords as they take off from Heathrow and bringing them into the past, where he's brainwashing the people on board and enslaving them. Of course, the TARDIS crew are investigating the mysterious missing Concords in the most practical way possible, by getting on board a Concorde. Now, the Master had no idea the Doctor would be coming, so his disguise has literally no point. The only reason it happens is because the original script didn't feature the Master, so they made the original villain be the Master in disguise, whether it made sense or not. Anyway, this is terrible. If Tegan didn't leave at the end, you would have literally no reason to watch this. And seeing as she returns in the first story of the next season, you have literally no reason to watch this. That's it for Season 19. Much better than Season 18. Even if Adric had 2 modes, intolerable and dead. I still don't like the 5th Doctor much, but many others do, so you might. Join me next time for Pointless Robot Companion, Niss's Departure, and the Return of the Brigadier.